Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm just about ready for some questions. You in the blue shirt.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Mr. Greer. This is Garrett from, the Big News Company. And, one question we just wanted to ask. You said you were gonna read Moby Dick in the previous episode, and we just wanted to follow up on that and ask, did you actually read it this week? Thank you.
First and foremost, I just want to let you know that it's extremely disrespectful to ask me if I read or haven't read the book that I said I was going to read last week. And I'm just not going to answer any more questions. Thank you, everybody. Oh, I always start this off drinking or something. Not drinking like alcohol, but I'm a liquid guy. I'm always drinking something. Good morning, or at least good morning for myself. This is episode 4. This is pretty cool. This week has been pretty big. So I that bit before that I just did, I definitely did not read Moby Dick. I'm so sorry. I'll read it. I'll get to it, but big stuff has happened for this podcast, and it's big in the moment, and I'm gonna appreciate it for what it is. But it's not small. But I spent a day asking people I know if they wanted to be on the podcast, and half of them didn't answer, half of them did, and the people that did are really cool. So today's episode, we have a lot of people. So it didn't end up being a lot. I didn't expect it to be a lot of people. Actually, before we even get into that, how's everybody doing? This is week whatever of,
We were so wrong. Take us home! If you don't stop it, they won't give you home to go back to.
Why is that door open?
Guess what, bitch? We're on the valley!
I've decided that I'm going to keep using that audio until it's over. That's what I feel like internally. And, there's no use to not use it. But this episode is incredible. And I'm going to say incredible with a lot of emphasis because I didn't have one guest. I didn't have 2. You know what? Terrance, did you have 3? Not even that. But it couldn't be 4. Oh, but it could. Keep going. 5? Keep going. 6? No, it was 5. I had 5 guests on this week, and it all happened by chance. So I have a friend named Hayley Aguilar. She's a filmmaker. She's incredible. I texted her probably, I think, what's today? It's Thursday. Happy Thursday, everybody. This is when the podcast comes out. I texted her probably, I think, Monday or Tuesday, and I was like, hey, this is really quick. Do you want to be a guest on my show? And you know what? She said yes very quickly. And she also brought people, which is incredible. So we have multiple filmmakers. So I used to work in film. I still love film. We kind of talk about it in the interview a little bit. But I think film was the catalyst for me to get into art, to do podcasts, all that stuff. That started my whole, I guess I could call it a career right now. But I have Hayley Aguilar, and then, you know what? Now that I think about it, I should have asked in the interview how to properly say everyone's name, because I'm going to say it horribly right now. But we have Hayley Aguilar. Yes, I know her. 10 years. We played tennis together in high school. That's incredible, right? And then we have Adam Anderson, who I knew about, but I didn't even I knew about him because of his film. And I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I kind of talk about that. Mark Arica, he's cinematographer. He works on a bunch of stuff. And then Jessica Carreón, I said that with the accent. That's awesome. Yeah, I saw her and I asked about Female in Film Festival. It's a festival in San Diego. And then Angel Magana. We all kind of talked on this Zoom. And it's my first interview on a Zoom. And I've learned so much from this interview, which is great. I learned just there's a little bit of a delay when you're talking. So like if you try to butt into a conversation, it kind of like it can ruin the flow of the conversation. I had, like just for a little bit of preface, I had way too much caffeine before. Hold on, I got a text message. Let me pause it and I'll go back into this. And he's back. I consistent. Nobody texts me throughout the day, and this kind of makes me angry because nobody texts me throughout the day. But then I get so many messages when I'm doing this, and I'm one of those people, like when I see a text message, I already have like a high heart rate because I don't know what it is, and then I have to read it. Like it's just, I'm one of those people. I'm very pensive about it, but regardless. Oh, I was talking about what was I talking? The interview. Yeah. So way before, I definitely had some nerves about it, just because like when you meet new people, I've only known Hayley. I didn't know the rest of the people that were in the interview. So like you have, especially because it's a Zoom call, I can't really like shake a hand. I don't think I can ever do that again, at least for the next couple of years, just in general. But it's a weird moment, like right when you see somebody pop up onto like a Zoom interview and you're like, oh, hey. So like, I think you kind of feel a little bit of that. I wouldn't say it definitely wasn't a bad interview. I loved it for the fact that I learned so much. So like, I think looking forward, they'll probably get a little bit better, but that's just that goes with assumption, right? Or that just goes with the territory. I keep doing this. I eventually keep getting better. I've noticed that I'm way more comfortable talking now than I was like the first week I did this, which is incredible. But I will say it was a great interview. We talked about a lot of film stuff. I kind of asked a lot of loaded questions, so bear with me when you listen to it. But overall, it was really cool. It was really cool to talk to creatives and see how they're like coping with coronavirus, how they feel right now. Jessica is on top of running Females in Film Festival, is a production designer, and she kind of talks about that. And then like Angel's a grip gaffer, wants to be a cinematographer. Mark is a cinematographer / director. And then Adam's a director / writer. He actually lives in New York, and we kind of talk about that for a little bit. And we kind of talk about the whole coronavirus thing. It's the big thing on the table. What's the big thing people usually say is on the table? An elephant. Elephant in the room. That's what I was thinking. But overall, I was so excited and so happy about this interview. I'm going to post it right now. This is a longer podcast than what I usually do. I'm trying to think of what else I have to say. I will say that I'm very impressed with how well I'm speaking on this here thing. It's weird how comfortable I got. Like, I think last week was kind of just like the foreground for this week's confidence. I just kind of forgot that this mic's here. I'm kind of just talking in my room. I always drink coffee before these podcasts. So I think you kind of notice. I think that's what I was saying before I got a fucking text message. But I drank so much coffee because like I was like, okay, I'm gonna meet these people. Oh, I dropped the water bottle. I'm sorry. I was like, I'm gonna meet these people, and I burped. Jesus, I'm a fucking mess. But I was gonna meet them, and then just that initial meeting, I had to get through that. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have a lot of coffee. But then you kind of realize, oh, I shouldn't have had so much fucking coffee. And then on top of it, yesterday was strangely like 100 degrees. So that was that, and then I think there's a baby crying in the back, just my neighbor or something. I don't know. It's a good interview. Just bear with me. I again want to thank all of them for being on it. It's like my first guests. That's really cool. The fact that I got 5 of them is incredible, and the fact that they all wanted to talk to me is just ridiculous. So right now, I am going to play the interview. I want to thank you guys. Because I'm going to probably end it after the interview just because this is going to be a long-ass podcast. But Jesus Christ, I'll try to read Moby Dick this week. I have so many guests, though. I'm not going to announce them yet because they're pretty cool. It's way better than I thought I was going to get. And I'll read Moby Dick. We'll save Moby Dick for like a day I don't have a guest. But for now, I'm trying to think. There's something pending on the back of my mind, like just peeling away at my head of something I have to say. Oh, well, you know what? Let's just go on with it. Thank you guys. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. And now I will play the Zoom episode of me with Mark Arica, Hayley Aguilar, Jessica Carreón, Angel Magana, and Adam Anderson. I hope you guys enjoy. I don't know if the Zoom actually records my voice. We'll see. Hello, can you hear me?
Hey.
Oh, hello. Yes, of course. How you been?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay, this is not the Zoom. This is me recording in post-production. I just want to let you know for context. Hayley Aguilar came into the Zoom early, and then Adam Anderson came in right after that. So just so you know. Okay, let's get back into it. Just in quarantine, same thing.
Yeah, I work from home nowadays because of the quarantine, so I'm still just busy as usual.
That sucks.
I want like a break. Like I understand like job security, like can't complain about that, but also like I want a long weekend or something. Like I'm just spending hours, if not like more.
Really? And then you film edit, right?
Yeah, so like my job, I'm like the content specialist. So like I do all of our like blogs, content for like social media and like all of our videos.
Okay.
So yeah, and I just do a report for like reporting stuff for the end of the quarter. And
Yeah.
I wrote something like 50 blogs and like half, like just since the beginning of the year, and like half of them have videos.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm like the only one doing them, and I was just like, holy shit, like.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing, man?
What's
Hey.
up? How's it going, guys? I'm good. Good.
Pretty terrific. I'm Terrance, by the way, and I want to thank you for doing
Hello.
this. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm Adam, by the way. I mean, my name's probably on there, so you know.
Yes. That's perfect. No, I want to really thank you guys because you guys are going to be initially like the first guest for this podcast. So That's terrific. I mean, we'll have a fun talk. I went through everybody's stuff before this. I want to add to.
Cool.
I spent like 4 hours doing homework, so I'm ready for this. Nothing. I'm not going to say any killer questions or anything like that, but just your guys' art is incredible too. I might add. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah, of course. And then,
Adam, how are you holding up? Because Adam's actually out in New York nowadays, right? How are
Yeah.
you?
are you serious?
How is everything over there?
I mean, it's a lot, you know. There's definitely a lot of stuff going on. I mean, I live about a half a mile from a hospital, and like within like the first like couple weeks of this, like it was like I just hear like sirens and stuff like passing by like my place all the time. So it's definitely been interesting, you know. My girlfriend's out here too. We're not quarantined together, but then I think we might actually transition into that soon.
Okay, nice.
The quarantine's really lasting this long, so we're like, I think we should, you know, be there for each other, help each other out through these times and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, just hanging in there. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely for, I would say, creatives, this is a very interesting time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. It's like you feel like you're supposed to, you know, be doing a million things because technically we have more free time. Like I was saying, I'm still working from home, so somewhat not the case for me, but you know, I'm just like to just be like, I'm trying to write my first feature, and it's like I feel like I need to be working on it anytime I'm not working, but it's just like I'm just not there, like in the headspace, you know, because of everything going on. It's rough.
Yeah, I started this podcast, I would say, in January. So this whole thing was supposed to have, like, this whole podcast was supposed to have a different tone, a different theme. And, like, it was supposed to be, like, I don't know, I was way too ambitious with it. I wanted to be, like, a mental health kind of podcast. But then You know, when the first initial, I would say, lockdown quarantine kind of changed the whole thing. I kind of just forgot about it. And now I'm more in a, and now I got back to it and I was like, okay, like let's get that head straight. Let's find some people. And unfortunately, this is a terrible time, but it is also an incredible time to use Zoom and interview people. So
That's true.
yeah.
You don't have to chase anybody down. Everybody's home, technically.
Everybody's home and it's super easy.
Yeah.
It's great.
I just messaged a couple of the others. They should be joining pretty quickly here.
Oh, no worries. See, the good thing is it's an audio podcast, so I'm recording right now, but we can just put it all together. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I was like so happy when you said you had like 5 people on it. I was like, yes, it's incredible. No, it's
For
good.
sure. Yeah, that's what's kind of, I don't know. I think it's cool because everyone's journey is different. And like, especially I think within film and like, there's so many aspects of it that people can get into. So it's just like, I don't know. I wanted like more stories to get heard than just mine, especially because, you know, right now I'm kind of more within like the corporate world and using that and applying that there versus, you know, yeah, I do also create on the side, but yeah, like people from different backgrounds and stuff.
No, that's exactly what I wanted to make the show. It's just an incredible way. Oh, by the way, hi, Jessica.
Hi, nice to meet you. Hi.
Nice to meet you. But that's why I think this kind of show kind of transformed into, I found that the hardest thing for me, it's always just like a mental barrier between artists is like creating and then like anxieties about creating. And then it's just a mental block. And I kind of wanted to make a show that kind of just shares other people's experiences, you know? And I think that's why it's perfect that you guys are all here. It's incredible. Yeah.
Do you guys know, I don't know, are you guys using Zoom with the browser or the app?
I'm using the app.
I think it's the app. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to download it on my desktop because like apparently if you only use the browser, you can only see whoever's talking.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, okay.
interrupt anyone on accident because I can't see if you're about to talk.
Okay, perfect. I think the gang is all here.
Nice.
How's it going?
Excellent. Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hello. How you doing? Hey, what's up, guys?
Oh, perfect.
Hey.
Hi, what's up,
Ooh,
Hayley?
editing.
Oh, this is terrific. There are so many people in this Zoom. I love it. Okay, perfect. So now that the gang's all here, I am Terrance. I've known Hayley now for about, I would say 10 years, honestly.
Yeah. Like
That's a rounded
tennis
estimate.
in school.
Used to play tennis in high school. And I just want to thank you guys for being here. This is awesome. Should be about an hour or however long you guys want to talk. We're just going to, I have a couple of questions for everybody, but then it's just free base. Say whatever you want to say, you know? And
Sounds
again,
good.
I would love to start this off by everybody introducing themselves. If that would be cool. If anybody wants to start off, I'll introduce, or at least I'll introduce myself. My name's Terrance. I defined myself as an artist recently this year just because I did so much like stuff throughout my, like, I guess I would call it an artistic career. When I was 18, I went to LA and then I worked as a production assistant on a couple of like reality shows, all that fun stuff. And then I just came back and I learned I really like illustration more. So that's what I've been kind of moving towards. And then I also have a band too. So I do essentially everything. I mean, that's just the best way to describe it. But yeah, that's me. How about you guys?
I guess I'll go. So just because I like can only see one person at a time, so I don't want to interrupt anyone. My name is Hayley. I kind of define myself as a filmmaker and content creator. So currently I am working as a marketing specialist, which a lot of that entails editing and shooting, basically like commercial content. And I have Dollar Pup Films, which is kind of like my own little film collective where we, create a lot of different shorts. I'm writing my first feature. We'll see how that
That's
goes.
awesome.
But,
Yeah.
Nice.
I can go next. So I'm Jessica. I am a production designer. So basically what that entails is like I build sets. I work in film and theater. I was working out of Lambs Theater before everything got shut down. And so I also do like freelance things. Like I did a catering commercial with Hayley and our friend Marco Westwood. And Mark actually was there, and Angel, I believe. I don't remember everyone. It's a big set. So I pretty much freelance everything. I'm also one of the co-founders of the Females in Film Festival. So it's a film festival that like Hayley was actually a part of, and that's how we met. Was she submitted to our festival, and it was awesome. Yeah.
Oh, that's terrific. Nice. That's awesome.
I guess I'll go next. I'm Angel. I would describe myself more as someone who likes to grip, occasionally be a gaffer if the director of photography rather would let me, you know. But I personally want to become more of a cinematographer. I do like editing. I went to film school in Florida at Full Sail University and was able to get in a lot of sets. So I got the real feel of what a professional set would feel like. And, you know, I've been working with my cousin a lot, Marco Westwood, like Jessica said, and he's been making a lot of his films, and I've been helping on. I hopped on as a cinematographer.
Oh, nice. All right.
That's about it.
All right, for sure.
Cool. I guess I'll go. My name's Adam. I am from San Diego. I was doing a lot of filmmaking and videography out there. So basically, I've done corporate stuff, I've done weddings, a lot of narrative stuff, various things, and I've also done some like corporate AV video engineering work too. But it's that, and then doing a lot of like writing, directing. So I had produced, written, and directed some stuff under the production company Giant Face Films. And then actually since August, I've actually been in New York. So I moved to New York in August. And then the day job I'm doing is I'm a video engineer for Sony Music.
Oh, that's terrific. That's insane. Okay. This is cool.
And I'm Mark. And I know Hayley and Jessica from Southwestern.
Perfect.
But me personally, I started off as a director. And I got into cinematography because at the time I didn't know any cinematographers. And then just over time, I guess I just ended up doing more and more cinematography. But recently, I think I'm getting back into directing.
So there we go.
It's kind of nerve-wracking because it's kind of just hitting me all at once again. PTSD almost. But aside from that, I try to be pretty flexible and just be on set on various roles. So,
okay, that's awesome. So I love that everyone has a general like infrastructure based around film. This is perfect. It's the perfect theme to this whole podcast episode. But I did want to ask one specific question to everybody. Now I know everyone doesn't have like a favorite film. I don't like to ask that question because I think that changes every year. But do you guys have a specific like scene or instance or maybe a film that got you guys inspired to go into that industry?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I mean, for me, I will say mine's is rather embarrassing, but I remember the movie Rat Race. I thought that was like from like 2002.
Dude, I remember that movie. That movie's so funny.
I just remember, I love the storytelling behind it, and I think that was one of my biggest inspirations.
What I normally like to joke about is that like why I got into film was because of the movie Looney Tunes Back in Action. Because they showed the back like a studio area of Warner Brothers, and I was like, I don't want to be on set. But I just thought that was so cool, and like it's something that I joke about because obviously like that movie has like it has great cast like Brendan Fraser and everything, but that one I like to joke about. But like a movie that I think like really sets apart that got me even more interested in like the power of like at least for me like production design was Sorry to Bother You that came I believe it was like 2 years ago.
Wow. Okay. Yes.
And the production design on that is absolutely amazing. Like just the things painted on the back walls that like add to the story, and like all the little like details in the back, like you could watch that movie so many different times and see like a different story panning out in the back. And I think that like
100%.
on a more serious note is like something that really pushed me forward into being like, wow, that's really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I love that movie. That movie, the twist at the end was really what got me with
so
that
good,
one.
Yeah.
And then anyone else have a specific, like, it could be a scene or a movie, you know?
Mine's a little old. It's called, I just really love the movie, and it's a movie that just gives me nostalgia and something that I've always wanted to make something like it. It's The Never Ending Story. It's a really old movie that I used to watch. That movie is fantastic. It just made me want to create something like that, be able to make my own stories, because you know how it's based. Like the boy reads a book and then he goes into it. So to be able to create stories in general is what that movie inspired me to do.
Yeah, that movie's beautiful. I love Falcor.
Yeah, he's awesome.
It's weird because for me, it wasn't one particular film. I got into film actually from photography, and I got into photography from just wanting or being curious about how people just live in everyday life. Like I like street photography, so I just liked just witnessing something happen and then finding some emotional attachment to it. I think that's what I carried over into film, and just constantly being curious about the human emotion. I guess that's also too why I kind of got into directing.
Yeah.
So I guess it wasn't really like one particular film. So yeah, I actually don't even watch a lot of films, ironically.
That's totally fine.
I actually have like a similar type of situation. Like I was into photography a lot, but at the same time, I was introduced to video editing first, and the video editing kind of spiraled me into mixed multimedia. And for multimedia, I started doing like tiny, small amount of journaling and just a tiny amount. But I also focused a lot on photography. And what Mark was saying, so I have a similar.
I think that photography is really common, like to have a background in, because it's like film is literally just like a composition of 24 like shots. But like I started off in like black and white photography, and I used to do dark room, and that was really cool. And I know that Hayley, I've been on a set with her where she did photography, and like she's amazing. So I can like segue that to you, Hayley, of like how you got
That's perfect.
Actually, I'm just sitting here thinking, and actually, like Mel Brooks movies, like all those like movies that he's done. Like I grew up watching those, and I have a real weak spot for comedy and horror specifically. And I just remember like thinking, like I really want to write something funny, or I really want to do. I don't know. I guess I kind of like the kind of lightheartedness of that. And my background was actually more in writing. When I was, growing up, I always wanted to become a writer. I thought I could like write novels. And it was my friend Taylor who actually got me into like making short films with her and like writing our short films. So that's kind of my background.
Nice.
Right, perfect.
That's very cool. Very cool. I feel like growing up, just like, being like a child of the 90s, and just like being taken to all the different, movies that were playing at the time in theaters, all the Disney movies, all the action ones. Like I can't even remember. I mean, I was probably like 6 or something, and for some reason my parents were taking me to watch Blade. But I feel like it was just the idea of the spectacle of like this piece of like narrative that people are like you're going into this darkened room with all these people. You're able to like watch this image, feel all these emotions like on this big screen. But I think the movie that really got me into doing more, focusing more on like the writing and like the human aspect of things was the movie Sideways.
Oh wow! Okay, I love that movie.
I think that was eighth. I was in 8th grade when I watched that for the first time, and that kind of like set everything off from there.
I mean, I mainly love that movie because it was filmed in San Diego. I have a special place in my heart for San Diego-based films.
Like writing these down. Okay.
All right, that's perfect. All right, now like the question that contrast that question is, do you guys have a film that you personally said you liked but didn't really like, but told everybody you liked?
Yeah,
Probably every film that I watch, because but it's hard to describe, because I would watch movies with friends, and then they're the most like well-versed filmmaker friends, and I'm like, oh, how do you like the film, Mark? It was good, you know. I can't elaborate. I'm like, I like it, but it's like, I guess the way it comes off, it's like, no, you don't know, you didn't like it, not geeking out on the small details, so I don't know. I can't.
Do you all feel different about film now that you're starting to work towards or working in an industry such as film? Because I felt like when I worked on a reality show. I worked on Dance Moms had a spin-off called Dance Studio Revamp. So I worked on that show, and it just completely ruined, I think, reality TV for me. Like, it was very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely takes a little bit of the magic away when you know how a lot of things are done. It's like you start looking at movies and you're like, oh, I know how they did that. And so, and when you're talking to other people who aren't filmmakers, they'll be like, what? And just like watch the movie and kind of ignore you. But they're like, whatever, we don't know anything about that. They want to stay invested in the story and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like a yes and no thing, like being able to like understand the mechanics of how a film works and being able to like learn those tools and those different like techniques to like tell a story. Like it helps to like know that and be able to catch that. But I don't know. I feel like it's more like, because I'm more attentive to those things, when I see them being used in the right way, it's like a better experience for me. I'm like, oh, like, yes, the story's good, but then I also appreciate it because like this character arc was done right. This shot was this shot setup was really cool. Like, and it all ties back into like the story.
Okay. Yeah. No, I can totally see that. I mean, there's some movies where I definitely, what did I watch the other day? I mean, I don't know if you guys are doing quarantine binges, but like, I'm just watching everything right now. I watched a 2-Night Stand with Miles Teller, and I forgot the actress in that movie, but I found that movie pretty fun, but I still couldn't get into it. Now I watched Parasite, right after, and I forgot I was even watching a movie. I thought I was there, So it's interesting to see that.
Okay,
I think go ahead, Hayley.
Sorry, I was like, what movie did I like pretend to like? Pulp Fiction.
Oh, me too.
Oh yeah,
definitely. That's definitely one of them.
Get out! I'm out of this meeting.
You're a Tarantino boy. I can't.
Maybe it's because of when I watched it. Like, I watched it very late. Like, first of all, I pretended to have seen it for probably 10 years and watched it for the first time like 6 months ago.
I think that's usually a lot of people's story.
Yeah, like someone will like be like, "Oh, so good," and you're like, "So good, it's such a good movie." But like, I watched it literally like, I hate this movie. I was like,
maybe it's the hype, It was all the hype that people were giving it, and when you watched it, it let you down.
Like, the way the story unveils is cool. Like, I will definitely give him that like pacing, and it's not like I hate Tarantino or necessarily or anything like that, but just the actual like plot, I was like, I hate this. Honestly.
For me, it was with the Lighthouse. I'm pretty outspoken about like not liking movies and like with critiques and like positives. I try and do like pros and cons of each, because I think like each movie does have like pros and cons. But actually, I lied about liking it actually to Marco, because that was the first time I met him, and we were talking about like movies, and he was like, "Yeah, that movie was so good," and I was like, he was the director on the set, and I was like, I don't want to like lay into this man, like. But I just felt like it was really pretentious. But like Robert Pattinson did great, like William Dafoe did great. It was just like, it just wasn't my thing. But like, I did listen to like Marco's point of like why he liked it, and like he did bring like a production value to it. To like I got to see like why it was amazing from like a production standpoint rather than like a plot standpoint. And so, like I said, pros and cons, but that movie I definitely remember being like, maybe I shouldn't say that I disliked it too much. Like,
yeah. I actually saw that with him.
Really?
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Hilarious. Wait, so have you guys at least worked in one aspect or another with each other?
Mostly. I worked with mostly everyone except for Adam. We actually connected through Instagram, which I think is really cool because that's how I've been meeting a lot of people who are, local or were local at the time in film.
Yeah.
And he left, the first time we met was his going away.
Yeah.
And so I was like, dang, I wish you weren't going away. I wish we'd gotten to work together. But
I know. A little bit of a bummer because I was planning on actually coming back to visit, but then all this happened. So.
Jeez. I know I was supposed to go to New York, or at least a trip to New York, but we canceled that immediately.
I'm still waiting.
Adam,
go ahead.
Oh, no. Of course, go ahead. You're fine. We're on Zoom. There's 6 people.
I know, it's hard. So in August, I got actually hired by Disney World through their college program to do costuming. And
wow.
I know. So I'm still waiting on a lot of it got canceled, but mine hasn't yet. And I'm sitting, I work at a grocery store now. So I'm like, do I really have to keep this job? Am I going to have to wait? but yeah, everyone, especially the film industry and entertainment industry has been super impacted because we're gig to gig basis pretty much, unless you're signed to a production company like Adam with Sony. But I don't even know I don't want to take questions, but how has that affected you? I'm curious because you work for Sony.
I guess it's interesting because we're I'm technically not on set for anything. I'm more doing I'm receiving the stuff that is already being made, and I'm kind of just doing a lot of post QC work. So just making sure this is the right codec. You didn't export it weird. There's not some crazy color grading issue or a brightness difference or something, somebody exporting it in the wrong frame rate. So it's more of a lot of that. And there's definitely been, I won't say who, but there's definitely been instances in my short time there where I've gotten stuff and I'm really surprised that this artist who is pretty big is having issues with their videos like this.
That's incredible.
Within 12 hour, in the 24-hour period before this thing is supposed to come out too, which is crazy.
Oh, wow.
So I assume you have a lot of close calls with a lot of artists. Because what I've learned is they all kind of run on their own time. Which could have a positive or negative, but
yeah, it kind of just depends. I feel because sometimes we'll get assigned things and then we're okay, when is this thing gonna come in? And then all of a sudden there's 2 hours left of the whole 8-hour shift, and then all of a sudden they're okay, here's this thing, you got to get it all processed and into the system before your shift's over. But then it's also a priority super ticket thing. This is releasing in 6 hours, it needs to be done now. So it can get hectic.
Oh, jeez.
But it's all right.
I imagine so. With just the film industry or just the creative industry in general, it kind of runs on its own time, which I have a love and hate relationship for. But Jessica, I did want to specifically ask you, so not a lot of people in general kind of know the facets of the film industry or the creative industry. And I just wanted to see if you could just break down production design for the general public.
Yeah, of course. So production design pretty much is at the top of, they call it above the line or below the line, basically pay grade wise, I guess. But also, so it's production design is considered above the line. And then below them is art directors. So art directors are people who are hired by production designers to build specific sets. But for me right now, especially because I mostly am freelance and I haven't really worked on huge projects.
Yeah.
I mostly do it all myself, and then I hire PAs to just like work with me. And so they're great. Like I love the PAs that I work with. I normally work with the same group.
Okay.
And it's amazing. But so for me, like specifically with production design, I've worked on music videos. Like you can really, really do anything. People might hate me for saying, but like it's kind of like a glorified interior design, but you're adding like cinematic elements to it, and it's all going to be confined within like what the camera sees. So like there's some shots that like you'll design and it won't even show up on camera, like you'll find out later. And a lot of it's just like rolling with like the punches and like adapting to like the situation. Sometimes we'll have production design people on set like while they're shooting, sometimes for like continuity or different things like that, or they can hire a PA and just have them keep track of the continuity. A lot of my stuff is pre-production, so I work with the director and the cinematographer and like figure out colors and kind of like the setup that we want to have and like the budget. And sometimes like for me, like what I like to do is like if I really want something on set, like I'll split it with the directors or the producers or whoever is like pitching money for this. And so it's working with that. But then in theater, it's different because theater, you get to be more like abstract because you have like a limited space and people aren't really expecting things to look realistic. And so, yeah, with film, everything's like really realistic, really detail oriented. And then in theater, it's more like you get to create like actual pieces. And the reason why I got into theater actually was because I love film, but I realized that a lot of sets were really static. And I wanted my sets to be moving sets. And like, I love the idea of like one shots or like pieces moving within like frame or, I don't know. I just really didn't want it to be static. I wanted to add like an element to my style because each production designer has their own style. And then with theater, I got hired on by the head of the theater department at Southwestern. And then he took me to Lambs Theater, and I've been working and being all over LA with him and then back here. And so it's been really, it's all about who you know, but honestly, like at least production design wise, it's like a really friendly, like incorporation of people. They do forget about us a lot. But that's why a lot of people don't think to hire production designs, at least like because a lot of people do it themselves, especially when they're starting off, which is great. But I can always be like, I do production design, like hire me. I can take that off your plate, like, you know, and it's been working a lot because people normally, I realize that like directors, when they start getting more up, they have a lot more on their plate. So it allows me to like be able to put in my creative process, but then also help them out and let them focus more on directing than production design.
And that kind of leads me to the big question for everybody is when you first started, because I love how you talked about essentially that people don't know that that's a position that can help out. Like, I think the biggest obstacle for me when I made a couple of short films and stuff like that, but I think it was hard for me to understand that there's some people that are better at doing what you are also trying to do. And I just wanted to see what was the biggest obstacle you guys had when you first started out working in the film industry.
I think for me it's trust, and it still is.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Like when I started, you know, especially at Southwestern College doing assignments, there was a time where I was doing something last minute, and the crew dropped out. I had to, you know, get last minute resources.
Yeah.
Equipment failures, and I had to do everything myself. And it's just, at the end of the day, I think you have to know a little bit about everything to see what you're interested in, what you're capable of, and know that whenever you hire somebody down the road, you know enough to know when that person's BSing you or not, you know.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
So I think trust for me is always an ongoing battle for me, I guess. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing.
No, it's a fair assessment. I mean, it's the nature of the whole industry. I mean, honestly speaking, I was working with Hayley, I think last year. I was supposed to do a video with her, and Hayley, like, I love you to death, but there were some issues going on at the time that led to, the industry, how it goes. I mean, it's just, some stuff just falls off, and yeah, you know.
I think communication probably, just in terms of like what Mark was saying of learning to work with other people and like other roles that you don't maybe necessarily think of. You know, being able to communicate well with people who are either like, I don't know, like your cinematographer, or, you know, even with your actors, if you're a director, being able to like communicate your vision and like trusting them enough that they can convey it. You know, like I know a lot in college, I majored in marketing, but I was like in like the film society club. And that was, I think, something that quite a few like, you know, filmmakers starting out also had issues with. Like they would want to like write, star, and direct in their own pieces. It's like, you know, it's like you have to not only trust someone, but you have to be able to look within yourself and be like, can I make them see what I'm seeing and like trust them to do it, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And I do want to ask whoever specializes in cinematography, I do want to ask, I've never asked from that perspective, how is the relationship between director and cinematographer? Like, I guess I could say that from a director's perspective too. Like, how does that usually work together? Because I've never worked personally with a cinematographer. I mean, that's why I moved to art, but I do want to see the kind of yin and yang profession, or, you know, the yin and yang relationship that you have together.
I think a director and a cinematographer have to work pretty closely together, because oftentimes the director will want something and he'll depend on the cinematographer to get that feeling off with the composition of the shot and what they're doing with the shot. Let's say with the just planning everything in advance too. You guys really excuse me. But you need to really work close to him, because it's all about getting that vision off and making sure you're able to communicate that through the shots that you plan. And sometimes the director will have some shots that he'll have in mind and you might not agree, but it's that communication that you didn't have. It's giving them your reason as to why that might work or might not work, and, you know, just be going over the details.
Yeah. To kind of add to that, I was actually there was a feature that was going to be made out here in New York, and I was supposed to DP it. And so in the basically like months leading up to like us shooting it, you know, we were actually supposed to, technically production was supposed to start 2 weeks ago if the quarantine didn't happen. So basically I was basically in contact with the director almost like, you know, 2 or 3 times a week. And I basically told him, I'm like when are you doing your table reads? Like, I want to sit down and just I want to be present for the table reads. I want to see how, like, you know, I want to see how the actors exist in like a physical space. I want to then like take all the notes that I've gotten from this and like saying like, hey, like, well, how are we going to convey like these emotions in like the locations that we're going to shoot? Like, what are the kinds of lights that we want to use to convey certain, like, you know, the overall arching experience that the character goes through. And it even goes into specifics like, oh, well, you know, what kind of camera do you want to use? Because there are certain cameras that will produce particular like images, and being able to play with those settings can conjure like a specific mood or feeling. So I feel like, yeah, like that relationship between director and cinematographer has to be really like tight.
Exactly.
Like best friends.
Yeah.
I wish for whoever director I work with to be my next best friend, you know. Like what Hayley was saying, you know, just keeping that communication going. Almost being 24/7 available. Them for me and me for them, especially when ideas can come up, and then just tell it to me, you know, let me know what's in your head, what are you thinking about. And I just love the collaboration. And for me, my style, if you can even call it that nowadays, is just finding the way for directors' choices and just the story that they want to tell. I would kind of consider myself a technical DP, but I'm slowly trying to let go of that. Again, going back to the whole trust thing, because I can't know everything on set, and I shouldn't, because I should be able to rely on the crew for that when we're on set. And I just need to be able to be on set with the director on set and just constantly talking about what's next, talking to the first AD. But also I want to add, aside from the director, I love my relationship with the production designer, because they are just as important to bring the vision. You know, they handle the lighting, you know, the color of the walls, the type of lamps, the lighting fixtures, that's all super important. And so it's basically like a holy trinity, you know, just me, the director, and the production designer. I love it. I just really love the collaboration. Yeah. And then aside from them, you know, just me and the grip and lighting team and the camera team. So Angel was helping me with some grip and lighting and some camera stuff. You know, it's all fun, man.
Of course.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
Now, truth be told, I mean, just what we're dealing with, the whole coronavirus thing, I do want to ask everybody how they are doing. I mean, first, how everyone's doing. You know, this is it's probably something new hasn't happened in 100 years, you know? And I just want to ask, like, what are you guys' I'm trying to figure out the best way to put this. How are you guys using, how are you guys coping, and where do you guys see the industry and your careers going in the next year or two? Because I know it's going to be ever evolving, but I kind of want to see the kind of generalization of it.
That's a loaded question.
Yeah, it's pretty big. I'm sorry. No worries.
I'm coping by trying really hard to stay busy. So like I am working remotely with my job full time. But so I mean, that's awesome. It also means I sit in a room in front of my desktop for 8 hours a day. So then to force myself for the rest of my free time to stay in the same room in front of the same desktop to then work on my own things has been kind of rough. I think like career-wise, it's kind of just reaffirmed that I would like to do editing and maybe pursue more editing, writing. Like I'm cool with being in the same room for 16 hours, you know, just working away. And I think it's kind of made me think like kind of what we were saying with collaborating with other people and trusting people to have other positions, that maybe I do kind of see myself taking more of a back seat on set specifically. You know, it's like, okay, you know, especially because I've directed literally everything I've written, you know, and it's like, I need to like let go of the kung fu grip or whatever and trust someone else to take a project and you know, to completion. And I'll edit it still, but definitely put that in my mind that maybe I'm more okay with, you know, kind of like the pre and post production.
And it's such an interesting time because I will say for me personally, it's really put into perspective what I kind of want to do. I think just the whole overwhelming experience of it all, I was like, man, I can stay inside and draw all day. And that's what I've been doing. So it's been pretty terrific. But I do want to talk about your guys' work. I mean, Hayley gave me you guys' accounts. I've known Hayley, but I haven't known you guys. Actually, Adam, I will say last year, I unknowingly watched the trailer for one of your short films because it was a Travelers Club post, or it was a Travelers Club article.
Oh, okay.
Buy roses for me. And and it blew my mind when I went on your website and I was like, oh, I know this. So it was really interesting. And I did wanted to ask you, like, is there any, did you actually go through putting it through festivals, at least for the time being, or?
Yeah, so that short had a screening night at the Digital Gym in San Diego.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
We put out like it was a whole free showing, and initially we were like, okay, like we were gonna book it for the screening, get the cast for like Q&A, but then all of a sudden, like, we put out a first showing, and then, I mean, even though like it was a free admission, like an RSVP thing, like the whole thing filled up within like
that's awesome.
less than 6 hours, and we were like, what the fuck? So then we basically had to like pack in like a second screening, so that was really interesting. But yeah, it made its rounds through some festivals. I think it ended up at the like Imperial Valley Film Festival. It got like an honorable mention at like LA New Directors.
Wow,
it was screened at a small festival in Brooklyn here. And I think those are the main ones. But I'm actually I've been talking with the producer about it. We're actually planning on putting out that short like just online like soon. We're like, all right, yeah, it's time to put it out.
Because I spent like an hour, I'll be honest, looking for the short online. I was like, what is it? I was like, let me check Vimeo. You know,
almost soon.
It's awesome. And then Hayley, I did want to talk to you about The Commuter. So I never got a chance to talk to you about your short film. I mean, I've loved your work from the beginning, just for the simple fact that you really know how to tell a story. And I feel like I'm not downplaying anybody's films, but there's not a lot of people that can, I feel like you wrap it up perfectly. Like it feels like a treat, you know? And The Commuter especially, I loved just the fact, and it wasn't because one of my songs was in it, but it was more so the fact that like, it was more so the fact that without the maximum amount of dialogue and without not too much like conversation, it still told such an amazing story. So I just want to say it was incredible. I never got the chance to tell you.
Thank you. Yeah, I would say that's probably like perfect, like just quintessential like show don't tell. And I was just really glad that I got that made. That was another one that I wrote and directed and shot myself, and it was just like there was just, I mean, I guess just because like our space was a car that like you couldn't really have much crew. So I mean, I guess at the time it makes sense, but I don't think I would put myself through that again. But I was just glad that it was something that I made, because it, you know, as a lifelong commuter, like I commuted to college, you know, I have a long commute for work. Just so much of your life is lived in your car that I think people don't think about, like, you know, like growing up, having these like crazy heart-to-hearts with your friends at like 2 a.m. outside of Taco Bell in your car, and like, you know, or just sometimes I feel your car just is there for your most honest moments. So I try to, you know, convey that. So I appreciate that you liked it and saw that. Thank you.
Yeah, 100%. No, me and Ariane, that is my bandmate, if you guys don't know, we watched it at his house, and the scene where Pam was sitting, the main actress, was sitting in the car eating McDonald's by herself after the whole boyfriend relationship kind of ordeal, literally gave us goosebumps. So like, it was such an interesting experience. It was awesome. And it was really great. And then now Jessica, I did want to talk to you about, so we weren't Instagram friends yet, so I couldn't really dig into it, but I did want to ask you about the Females in Film Festival.
Yeah, so I started that with my co-founder, Melissa Wilderson.
Okay.
She is amazing. And we started it because in our department, back when I first kind of started there was probably like about 6 girls in the whole department.
Okay.
And it was very like, I don't like apparent, you know, you feel when you're one of those 6. And it wasn't necessarily something that like, it wasn't like a hostile environment, I would just say. There wasn't really like a creative space for us to like plug into. And so we decided to create our own film festival to showcase other women in San Diego. And it was actually the first intercollegiate festival in San Diego.
Okay.
And so it was really, really cool that we were able to have that. And our only requirement, because we did get a lot of backlash. We had people protesting it. Our only requirement was that one woman had to be in a major production role. That was the only requirement. But yeah, it was really great because we got to network with people, and like we still have our Instagram account now. Our festival unfortunately had to be postponed due to everything. But we try and do shout outs to anyone who, like, we did a shout out to Hayley and like other people who are doing production during this time, or like trying to showcase them and get people to follow them. At this point, it's more so of like a showcase. I was talking to Hayley about maybe doing like an online festival, but right now, like I said, I'm working like crazy, and
I'd imagine so. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay. That's life. But yeah, so that's what I've worked on, like with females in film. I have written and directed and done my whole type of thing, like Hayley, with one film that I did. It was called To My Beloved, and right now I'm trying to get it on YouTube or Vimeo, but I have some copyright things that I'm trying to re-edit. And yeah, and so but yeah, I think that sorry, I'm like lost track of my thought, but yeah, with that one, like I kind of like Hayley's storytelling too, and like that's what I did with mine. So mine was about it was all a voiceover, so the whole thing you got to witness two people. The point was that it's two soulmates who haven't met each other yet, but they're writing letters to each other, but they don't know that they like exist, and so they're just writing like these open letters to whoever. And these people are living out memories, not knowing that like the other person is supposed to be like with them. So like some memories it's like them by themselves, and some memories it's like them together that like they don't know are gonna happen yet. And then and yeah, I tried to keep that one like really like upbeat and like normally mine are sad, so that was my first like like happy one. And then I was gonna do my first like real production design one. I was gonna relinquish cinematography to actually Charlie Cisneros, who all of us have worked with pretty much. I don't know about Adam, but I know you left. but yeah, and so it's really great to be a part of a team and like work with other people like Hayley and Mark and Angel, who like really have like a tell for like narration and like the point of story in a like film or piece.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah,
Can I ask a question? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, of course.
What's that online film festival idea about? Like, what is it going to entail, or what's that going to be like?
Yeah, so we were thinking of doing like having people still send their submissions, and then have it be like to where they are all on our website, and then have like a link to where people can go directly to that and watch it to see like what submissions we got. However, it didn't really give the last time we were able to rent out like the Mayan Theater, which is like a actually really nice theater. It's being torn down now, but yeah, so yeah, they're tearing it down. They're getting a new one. It's a $54 million theater, and I'm really trying to get in there with my internship if Disney doesn't work out. But yeah, and so like we were able to have like this big space and like have people watch their films on like a big screen, and I think that added more like purpose to it and more like validation that like your films are being on like this huge screen and you get to see it instead of like in a classroom or like on a YouTube link that not like minimizing anyone that like just submits, because that's honestly how that's our media platform, is how we share things on Vimeo and YouTube. But just adding more significance of like seeing it in person, I think that's what we were missing. But definitely the online one was really we might still do it, but honestly right now like there's so many other things going on. But
That's fair, okay, no worries. And then Mark, I did want to ask you, I saw, so one of my million hobbies that I do is cycling, and I saw on your Instagram page that you did I don't know if you worked on the cinematography or working for the Belgian Waffle 2019 race. So, man. So I wanted to ask if there was anything interesting about that, or like, it's just, I've been very aware of that race just for years, but it's just so cool that I didn't even know you were involved with that. And if you could just kind of explain the whole race.
Everything was interesting about it. I've never done anything like that. It's so, my adrenaline was through the roof, like just bouncing from one location to the other. I think we had a team of 15 camera people, I believe.
Wow, okay, yeah.
Just all dispersed because, it's a huge race. Is that what it was? A race?
Yeah, it was a cycling race, yeah.
It was very stressful because you gotta hit your shots. You know, we had to track the lead racers, the lead male, lead female, and then you got the pros racing all at once, and then you got the amateurs racing, I think, after the pros, or no, the amateurs started before the pros. Then obviously the pros eventually caught up. So everybody just started just meshing, and I'm like, who's the lead? Like, oh my God, we're communicating via text message. We're like, okay, the lead just passed me, and then the person, you know, they know that, oh, this person's coming up. It was I was gonna say mess, but it's like a beautiful mess. It's like a painting. It's like
I like to say those are the best types.
Yeah, it was really fun. We were supposed to do it actually. I think it was supposed to be like last week. I just got a notification on my calendar like, oh, we were supposed to film the Belgian Waffle Ride 2020 today. Like, oh, it's not happening. Everything got postponed, but
yeah, I mean, we're postponing a full year, right? That's safe to assume.
At this point, yeah.
Unfortunately.
But I did want to kind of, just before I wrap this up, I don't want to hold you guys too long. I do want to ask one last question from everybody. And it is, what is your best moment in film so far? And it could be a certain moment. It could be a project you worked on, and
good or bad.
a friendship, or you could say good or bad. We could do either or. We've definitely, I assume we've all definitely worked on some pretty horrible projects.
I want to say one of my best memories. It was actually, I believe, last year. And I got invited to the 23rd annual Emerging Cinematographer Awards in LA.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah. And so I got ready, I tried to curl my hair and look nice. So I had my hair all pinned up, and I was in sweats or whatever. And me and Melissa Wilderson, we drove up to LA, and we were stuck in the worst traffic, which is normal. And we had to get dressed in the Ralph's parking lot, right next to the award ceremony, to get ready. So I'm pulling these bobby pins, and we're running, and we look really nice. And there's a red carpet, and there's photographers there and everything. And then afterwards, we got to meet Patty Jenkins, the cinematographer of Wonder Woman, and
wow.
to her. And yeah, it was so cool. There was a cocktail party after, and we got to network with all of the award winners. One of them actually worked on Rami, the one that just won the Emmy, or was it Golden Globe or Emmy, one of those. And and so that was really cool. And I think that was my first wow, I made it, kind of, or we're making it type of thing. And then that same night we drove back to San Diego after, and that was really cool because it was a full trip to see, to be a little bit a part of the industry and see all the networking and different things that go on, and then kind of come back to reality. And that's how film is. It's just you're going gig to gig and event to event, and then just resting for the next one or getting ready for the next one.
That's a perfect way to put it, I would say. That's the perfect description. It's such an up and down route, I would say.
Yeah.
I guess to kind of add to the whole notion of the commuting to LA and everything, one of my favorite early experiences, I think this was 2013 or 14, there was a filmmaker in Los Angeles that I had met, and we had been talking online for the longest time. And then he was like, oh yeah, I want to get you on a set that I'm doing. And so he was basically shooting a short film about a guy who gets into backyard boxing to pay for his mom's medical, for his mom's medicine. So we basically spent this whole weekend bouncing between all these different locations in the San Fernando Valley, which was super rad. And I was just basically just running around, getting every little bit in exchange, and then doing on the fly interviews with people, doing just BTS of the entire experience. And I think it was just really awesome because it was really great just being in the presence of community. I feel that's the thing I really appreciate most about when you really know that you're on a good set and you're working with good people, and there's that really good sense of strong community. And that's something that I really felt proud of. And then just wrapping up, when we actually wrapped the whole shoot around 4 or something, that Monday morning. And then I was oh, well, I can either find a place to crash here, or I can drive back to San Diego. I guess I'm driving back to San Diego. Yeah. So it was a really bittersweet moment to like did it like pushed through the whole weekend and then drove back to San Diego. Like the sun's rising, and then I got home, and yeah, it was overall just a nice time.
Oh, that sounds incredible. I mean, it's cool to hear that some other people have had pretty similar experiences. I've definitely had those late night monster, fueled drives to LA, and it's just it's funny. Yeah, so like my favorite moment I've ever had. So I worked on this straight to Netflix film, probably like in 2014. It was like the second thing I've ever worked on, and I was just like a key PA, so I wasn't doing anything. But I didn't know that on sets they typically have like a tradition. So I knew nothing of. I didn't go to school for film or anything like that. I just wanted to be in the industry. So I didn't know that, or apparently in some sets they do this thing where they like to make the key PA AD a scene. It's kind of just like a little here we go, like have some fun. So they told me, and I wasn't even prepared for it. I didn't even know what to say, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then it ended up being in the film, so I was like, oh nice, I assistant directed that little piece of a B-side film.
That's so cool.
That's dope.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
I guess it was like my first semi-large. It was still a student film, but it was like a larger production where they had a truck with a bunch of equipment and everything. And I haven't had I didn't have an assigned role yet. And so at that time I was doing mostly grip stuff, and they were looking for people to man the truck, to be the one on the truck. I'm not sure if they have a specific name for it, but they just called it the truck grip or something like that. And I just loved being on there. It's like the most relaxing job on set. And like people would come up to you, give you food, thanks for your hard work. And honestly, I'm just passing you guys the equipment and tell you guys. I just enjoyed being on there on the truck. It was a good time.
Oh no, that's awesome.
I'd do that again if I had the chance.
Now, do you guys have any plans? So post-coronavirus, are there any projects we're working on right now? Are there any things we're looking forward to? I know Hayley mentioned that she has a feature, or you're writing a feature in the process. I'm not going to say.
I have no intention of actually shooting that. I think I would like to send it to like writing festivals.
Oh, that's incredible. Okay.
But I was in the middle of shooting my latest short when COVID hit.
I saw that.
Finish eventually. I'm sure it'll be fine, but that was, I don't know if I could say this. I don't know. It was the biggest case of just like blue balls. Where it's just like, damn, I was really excited about this short. And this is the first time I was actually working with Charlie. I'm like really trusting someone to be my DP and really putting that on him and, incorporating more, just more crew. And I was just like, dang it, like I really wanted to finish this. So, patiently awaiting.
Patiently awaiting the chance to get back at it, I imagine, right?
Yeah.
That sucks. I'm sorry. Does anyone have any cool projects they're working on? Anyone doing anything other than film or music or anything creative like that?
There's some industry like mentorship stuff that I'm working on at this time.
Oh, really?
There's basically somebody that I know. We worked together on a talk show years back, but then she basically does a lot of work she's done work for like ABC and Disney, and right now she does a lot of work for the a nonprofit called the Stan Lee Foundation. Okay. So then I've kind of been working on her on just like some mentorship stuff. We recently had this Zoom call where we were talking with the guest that she was able to bring in was Jordan Calloway, who's an actor who was in like Riverdale and like some CW shows. So it was really interesting hearing insight from him in terms of like how the industry's going, which is really cool. Yeah. I think just project wise, I'm kind of like falling back into just a lot of writing. So yeah, just a lot of like writing and picking up some old stuff, kind of seeing if I could tidy it up and then kind of like revisit it in a way. But that's kind of the main thing.
Oh, okay. All right. I mean, that's all we can really do at this moment, right? Like, it's safe to assume.
Yeah, right
But-
now for production design, really, like, there's nothing I can really like build for anybody. So I have been like trying to redesign my backyard. So I'm just like painting. I bought a bunch of plants and I'm like painting pots and stuff, and that's like the most
that's
that I'm able to
terrific.
do right now. But it's a nice creative outlet because like I get to paint again, and like I don't get to use
Yeah.
any tools, but like I'm not trying to go crazy yet. But it's cool just to have like something that I can like de-stress with, because like I do like that as a job, you know.
Yeah, of course. No, that's awesome. And the last question I'd want to ask, this is totally the last question. I thought the last one was supposed to be the final one, but I'm sorry, I apologize. So anyone that wants to get into a creative field, I just want to ask, what's everyone's advice that they think that everyone should take heed with?
Just do it.
Okay, that's perfect, honestly. That's what I learned.
Just do it.
I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
That's all right. Say just do it, but also just always keep an open mind, open heart. Always be humble and always be willing to learn. And then I feel like everything will just naturally fall into place. And also, always try to push yourself. You're not going to like the project that you just did. Push yourself so the next project you do something different, do something better, always challenge yourself. And yeah.
That's perfect. I mean,
I think for me, like I would agree with Mark in saying like just always being ready to learn, in a more like type of like microcosm thing, like specifically like with like women, I would say like just kind of like know your worth on like sets, because I think a lot of times like we kind of take the role of like a quiet secretary instead of being like a little bit outspoken. And like Mark is completely correct of like being humble and like knowing your place and like knowing like what time is right. Like I've been on projects to where like I didn't find out until after that I was like way underpaid and like different things like that. And so like not being afraid to be like vocal, but also knowing how to play the game, because that's what we call it, is like playing the game, and like knowing
100%.
knowing when is right to like speak about it, and knowing when is right to just like kind of sit back and like wait for your next like opportunity, like that type of thing.
No, that's a perfect description, or perfect advice, I should say. I've definitely been paid $20 a day.
Yeah.
But any other advice? Yeah.
I just wanted to add, I think another way to look at this question is like, if I was going to talk to the 2015 self, and that 2015 is when I started, if I were to give myself advice, I think the advice that I would give myself would be to pick a path that you want to do, and nip or poke the brains of professionals. And I think during these times, it's actually a perfect time to reach out to professionals in the industry. Everybody's doing podcasts and wanting to share knowledge. No one's on set. Everyone's at home trying to find things to do, things to talk about. So I have friends just starting a DP series. Gaffer talks to DPs and just nitpicking their brains. And it's unfortunate times, but it's also like the positive is that there's just wealth of knowledge everywhere. And now's the perfect time to just, I don't know, push yourself.
You're telling me I started a podcast. It's perfect.
I think my thought was some probably advice that I like. This is kind of me telling myself this also, but to not get discouraged, I guess, or to let jealousy like discourage you, because like with social media, like you see other people making big moves and you're like, dude, like that is amazing, I'm so happy for you.
Yeah.
But that's me. And to, I guess, to like let that be your motivation, versus like discouraging you from being better. Like I've kind of made that a mission. So I have like my Dollar Pup Films Instagram account, and I've made it a mission to like only follow accounts that like motivate me and like give me ideas versus making me feel like what I'm not currently doing isn't enough, to be more like, look at what you could learn to do, you know? You just have to learn to do it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah, 100%.
just to not be the voice in your head telling yourself that what you're doing isn't good enough, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. This is really good advice, honestly.
Yeah,
From
I think to
everybody.
kind of add to a lot of that, you know, I think that's kind of a big issue. Like, it's really hard in the day and age that we're in to not compare yourself and where you're at to like your peers. And I really think that the one thing that I'm even realizing during this time is, you know, being able to have that separation between your productivity and then like your like self-worth, where it's like, yes, like these are hard times, like you're not making as much as you did before, but you're still just as valid. Like your work still, like the work that you've done so far is still just as valid. And I think if anything, you know, it's good to be able to like challenge yourself and stay productive through these times, but at the same time, it's also important to, you know, be kind to yourself and kind of trust the journey too. Like you've already committed to this really long journey, and it's just, you're only going to keep learning from here. So I think
100%.
as long as you're patient with that, then, you know, it kind of
that's the big one, isn't it? The patience.
Virtue.
Yeah, 100%. And then I just want to thank you guys 100% for being here. And I know it's really stressful, and I know we have a lot of time on our hands, or some of us don't even have a lot of time on our hands. But I really want to thank you guys for being on. And before we go, I just want to ask if you have any social media you want to promote or anything like that. This is the time to do it.
Dollar Pup Films. It's exactly how it sounds. Dollar Pup Films. If you want to check out any of my stuff, all of my stuff is online. There's no, so yeah.
And is that just on Instagram, or is it like at Dollar Pup Films, or?
Yeah, Instagram, also on Vimeo and YouTube.
Okay, perfect. So,
for females in film, we have it. It's just Females in Film SD. That's on Instagram. And then I run that account right now. I have not been posting much. But also my personal account, which I do post like production things, is at Intertwined Stories. I was a Tumblr hoe, but it applies to production as well. So yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Let's see. I've got basically there's Giant Face Films. That's on Vimeo, on YouTube, and then also on Instagram, and I think some other things. But if you just look up Giant Face Films, you'll run into it at some point. And there will be posts there sporadically. It's a little dry right now, but there's plenty of stuff to look at.
Yeah, and you could find me at on Instagram. It's my first and last name and VP. So it's Mark Arica, V as in vegetable, P as in peanuts, I guess. That was like really bad examples. Yeah, I normally just post my work, but it's usually in the stories. I could just post random stuff. So
that's
yeah.
And then Angel, do you have any social media you would like to share?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't post too much, but it's also my first and last name separated, or ANGEL _ Magana, MAGANA with 2 A's. I have mostly photos on there.
Yeah. Oh, that's still good, man. Somebody will see it, you know?
Yeah.
But it's perfect. And then again, I want to thank you guys one more time for spending your time with me. This will be up sometime, I think tomorrow. Honestly, I'll post it tomorrow. I'll edit anything. Beautiful. I'll edit it all together. I'll send you guys the link. Thank you guys. I hope you guys have a good day. I'll definitely add you guys on social media, and stay safe. I mean, that's all you can really say. I hate saying that.
The email sign off.
Thanks,
Terrance. Yeah, of course. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys. Nice meeting
Nice
everybody.
to meet you.
Hey
nice meeting you
guys, be
guys.
safe, everyone.
Yeah, of course. You guys have a great day or night. Yeah, right.